Day and welcome to the Live at the Waterhole show. You with myself, Stefan Winterboer, for the morning, and what we've got on screen are a small herd of eland, and we are at the Africam Aldonio camera. This is all the way up in Kenya. We have a couple of cameras around all over South and East Africa, or Southern and East Africa, including Namibia actually, and it's an interactive show. So if you're just joining for the first time, firstly, welcome. And secondly, you are also welcome to send me through your questions, your comments, any suggestions you have. You're also welcome to tell us some interesting stories, and we'll get through as many of them as we can through the show. If you aren't already registered on the website to ask questions, then please just visit the WildEarth website and you can register there, and then we can chat as far as chatting is possible. Um, It's a great day, actually, both here in South Africa, where I'm sitting right now, and up in Kenya. You can see there that there's just some low clouds, not too much wind, and quite sunny. Where I am now, a little bit of wind has come up, and it's brought some cloud with it, as well as this sort of yellow haze, which is quite typical of bushfires. And where I'm sitting now, I can smell a bushfire in the region, somewhere along the line, the bush is burning. Why don't we have a look at the summary of the weather expected today? As you saw there, definitely a day that we can expect some change. There seems to be weather systems moving in and around the southern part of Africa as well as East Africa for today, and it's bringing in some change. So a bit of wind, a bit of cloud, and a bit of excitement, and I hope that this show is going to be as exciting as the last couple of days were. Yesterday, for instance, we saw a crocodile hunting and catching some fish. Who knows what's going to be waiting today? Like, I'm about as excited as what you are, to be honest. Now, I do have a confession to make. These doves that you see on the edge of the water on the left-hand side of the screen, the Cape Turtle doves. Yesterday I called them ringneck doves. They are two different things, so I apologize for all of you birders out there. That is my mistake. It was quite smartly pointed out to me by my partner yesterday when I finished off the show, and I'm needing to admit to that. Now, those eland are the largest antelope that occur in southern Africa, southern and East Africa, actually, um, and is very closely related to a kudu, which is also quite a large antelope, but it is one of the slowest. So, whereas an animal like ooh, let's pick one of the faster ones, Thompson's gazelle, springbuck, Tsesebe, one of the fastest antelope in the world, if not the fastest antelope in the world behind the pronghorn, are incredibly agile. The eland can be quite slow in comparison, but then it is four times as heavy, and so they're really big. Male eland weigh up to a ton, really big one. Most of them sort of between 600 and 900 kilograms, which is about 1,200 to, let's call it 2,000 pounds, which is big, as big as a big cow or a big bull. Doves just streaming in here. Very common bird both here and in East Africa. A seed-eating bird. Lots of grass, obviously, on the equator. If I'm not mistaken, it looks a little bit more lush than it was yesterday. Might have found there was some rain yesterday afternoon, maybe last night. Just has a washed feel to it. I don't know if there was, but it would be interesting to know. Quite difficult to see this little bird that's just landed sort of just below center. It's a dark bird making its way slowly to the water. I'm not going to hazard a guess, but the resolution on my screen is way too low. But it looked like one of the widow finches, which is a black bird with either white feet and a white beak, or red feet and a red beak, or a red beak and a white feet. We'll see. Ah, look at this. Goodness me. Talk about surprises. Wow. And then quite an unusual animal as well. This is a bull elephant with a skew tusk. And while we just wait for the camera to catch up, there we go. Well done, everybody. You can see that his one tusk is not only discolored, but it's also deformed, pointing in the wrong direction, and skew under his chin. And that could be for any number of reasons. But it is a deformity. It could be he may have been born with that. It could have been damaged somehow when he was younger, and so grew like that. But regardless of how he has it, he definitely has this fang type tusk, which looks healthy in every other regard. Gosh, look at him. What an unusual fellow. Now that would be diagnostic. There won't be too many elephant with that shaped tusk and that massive tear in his ear. That is also probably from fighting. Could be from a stick, rushing away in panic from something in the nighttime. Might have impaled him on something and he tore his ear in an effort to get out. But it's most likely from fighting with another bull elephant. Look at him. He doesn't look comfortable, eh? He's got this sort of nervous energy around him, which I'm picking up. Not a young bull elephant. You can see from the shrunken temples that he has. Yeah, but skinny, something's coming out of the... Look at him there. Something's there. Head up. That's a threat display. He's drinking, but as soon as they lift their head up above their shoulders and their ears above their shoulders, that's a clear indication that he's hearing or seeing something there in the bush. Ear out. What is it? So, 50, you've made a comment about how impressed you are at the amount of animals and the diversity of them around this waterhole. I must be honest with you, I'm exactly the same as you. We've now done, I don't know, about a week or so, 7 days, 8 days maybe of narrating for me, and I must be honest, every time we come here, there's something new going on. It really is an incredible place. And right now, we're seeing this elephant. He's obviously looking or hearing something in the distance. He's not smelling anything because otherwise his trunk would be up and sort of questing. But he's definitely something's got his attention. That is the sort of alert posture for an elephant. Let's have a look at his tail. If he cocks his tail to the side, then we'll see if he's agitated. It doesn't seem like he is. It just seems like something's grabbed his attention. And like I said a little bit earlier, he's got this sort of nervous energy around him. Might find there's another bull elephant in must close by, freaking him out a little bit. There could be people walking around in the area. There could be dogs barking or lions. He just had a quick drink and then he rushed off. And he's now walking in the direction of that sound. I think what we'll do is give him a bit of time to, I don't know, go and find what he's... Look at him there with his head up. Gosh, I wouldn't like to walk into that elephant. I think he'd give you a go for your money. He just looks like he's out for a fight, doesn't he? What he does there, you can see him busy walking off there and walking out of shot. Alright, so it stays a mystery, and hopefully whatever bothered him comes out of the bush and we can have a look at it as well. But while we're waiting for that to happen, why don't we quickly go 5,000 kilometers south to Tau Lodge and go and have a look at what's going on around there. And just like that, we are looking at something completely different. Now, for those of you new to the show, we have come across a couple of different countries. We've come across Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, and some of Botswana, well, all of Botswana, into South Africa. Just like that, the flick of a switch. And we're now on the borders of South Africa and Botswana in a game reserve called Madikwe. And we are at a pan close to Tau Lodge, one of Africam's cameras. And what we're looking at there are 3 crocodile. I'm assuming that one of these crocodile is the one that we watched fishing yesterday, but there are 5 crocodile in this particular water body. And so it's not necessarily the one we saw yesterday. And yesterday what happened was one lay in the sun until he got enough energy to get going, and then came into the water and immediately started to herd fish from the deeper portion of the pan into a shallower section. And then using his body to sort of barricade the exit, he forced the fish to a point where they started to stream past him, and then he snapped one up in his mouth, skedaddling out of there to go and eat his meal behind a rock away from where his friends could see, so that they didn't come and steal anything from him. And as you can see, these particular crocodile are lying with their bodies quite spread out on the mud bank, and that's so that they have as much surface area as they can possibly show to the sun, so that their body temperatures can increase. They're cold-blooded, and so they use environmental temperature to control metabolism. That's what they're busy doing right now. Those ridges on their back, reminiscent of dinosaur scales.
Do you love relaxing at a waterhole with the sights and sounds of Africa all around you? Well, we have some really exciting news for you. From August 1st, Africam is joining forces with WildEarth to bring the majesty of Africa right into your living room with 9 incredible new waterhole cameras from across South Africa and Kenya. Get ready to embark on a new journey. This is Live at the Waterhole.
Interestingly, crocodiles can also regulate their body temperature and keep it optimum by opening up their mouths. It's a phenomenon called gaping, and they will sit with their mouths wide open and allow cool air to evaporate moisture off of the inside of their mouth, but also just to blow cooling air over the membrane, which cools them down slightly without them having to retreat into cool, dark water to get their temperature down. We were just having a look at these three crocodiles and musing over their ability to regulate their body temperature using the environment. We'll go into why that's, well, the pros and cons of it, but suffice it to say that they don't have a constant body temperature that requires energy burning to either cool it down or to heat it up like we do. They use the environment to manage their metabolism, and so it can fluctuate a lot more than what mammals can, or warm blooded animals can. And they use a variety of different, physiologically and behavioral characteristics to do that. So the most obvious is if you want to warm up, you lie in the sun and you spread yourself out and you get warm. And obviously, if you want to cool down, you retreat into the shade or cold mud or into a deep, cool pool and you cool down. But those are dramatic changes on sort of both ends of the scale. And what crocodile can do is open up their mouths, which they do in a process called gaping. Um, and what that does is it allows moisture on the roof of their mouth cavity to evaporate and cool them down, cool blood down. But they can also increase blood flow to their skin. And we were wondering, or I was wondering, if those scales on their skin act as thermocaptures or solar capturing devices. I don't know what you want to call it. There's some word for it, but in any case, they are they allow a sun at a sharper angle. So when it's lower down to the horizon, to strike more surface area and heat them up quicker um, than they would otherwise allow. And I would imagine if they angle themselves to a prevailing wind direction, that they could actually channel wind down there. Oh goodness me! Sorry about that sudden jump there. That we will often do that when there's some action happening, and of course, those crocodile weren't doing too much, and so we've just jumped a couple of kilometers away from Africam's Tau camera to the Jamala camera, same game reserve in Madikwe, even though there's not as much water here. And what we looked at there was a herd of elephant rushing in to come and have a drink. Obviously, quite thirsty. And not only do we have elephant here, but we've also got some wildebeest in the foreground. We've got some impala off on the left and coming through the center of your screen now. And we have, wow, look at that jump. And we've got some zebra center and right as well. But of course, the stars of the show are the elephant, the breeding herd. And we've got a more zebra coming in on the left. So cool that we can go from camera to camera. It's just amazing. We're jumping from one topic to another instantaneously, sometimes over thousands of kilometers and in very different habitats. Now, while this may look very different from Tau, it isn't really. Madikwe is quite incredible, though, in that it sits on the boundary between the Kalahari biome and, well, the Kalahari and the bushveld. That's what it actually sits between. The Kalahari has its characteristics, and the bushveld has its characteristics. And they're two very different from another. All right. Got a few gremlins this morning, so we're going to jump across to Kenya and Old Donyo. Now, you'll excuse us jumping around so much. Sometimes what happens is we have gremlins creeping into our system because we are bringing you these videos as a live feed from some of the most remote wilderness areas on the planet. And it isn't a straightforward problem to solve that. I'm just very thankful that we've got a team of super technicians that are jumping all over the problem as we speak, and we'll sort it out. So they'll stabilize it as much as what they are able to do. What we're looking at here are two warthog, and this poor little guy that's closest to us, he's missing the tip of his tail. Oh, there you go, his mom. So they're two piglets and mom. She's just coming from the left. Again, you can see that it's something in the area here is disturbing these warthog. They're not at ease. That elephant was also not at ease a little bit earlier. Their tails up, very typical of the warthog. That is what made them nervous. Our friend has come back. So he rushed off just now to go and inspect something. His head came up, he heard something, and then he rushed off in that direction, and now he's back again. Obviously, he didn't quite slake his thirst, and now he's figured out what it was, and he's come back to have another drink. And we know it's the same elephant because he's got the same very characteristic fang-like tusk, and then that tear in his ear, coupled with his sort of general size and shape, the sunken temples. And just his sort of general demeanor suggested that he's not comfortable. He's sort of giving off a nervous energy, and I think as Warthog picked it up, you can see how long he drinks for. Something in the distance is still busy drawing his attention. But what a great shot in profile when he lifts up his head, that skewed tusk that he's got.
Did you know that the WildEarth team makes weekly behind the safari content? Would you like to get to know the WildEarth family better? See how we live,
This is Igor's bedroom.
Learn about our production process, and see the antics that happen off camera. Sign up to be an explorer and you will get access to all this content and more.
Now, the throat and the trunk of the elephant are not joined in a common cavity. We have a common cavity at the back of our mouths, and our bodies stop water from going into our lungs through an extension of our palate called an epiglottis. And when we swallow or we breathe, it's blocking one or the other, either the esophagus or the trachea. With elephant, it's not the same. They don't have an epiglottis. Their nose or their trunk goes straight into their lungs, and their mouth goes straight into their tummies. And their trunk is sort of an extension of the nose and the top lip. You can see that he's sucking his trunk there. It's not a sign of insecurity. I think he's just got some water that you can shake his head. Something's there. I definitely think that something's on the right-hand side of this pan. I don't think it's close by. Where are you going? All these zebra are going to give this uptight elephant a bit of anxiety. I think he's going to probably chase some of them away, or he'll move. Goodness, lots of zebra. Yesterday we had 3 different groups of zebra in 3 different locations come down to drink, and numbered sort of between 17 and 23, I think, was the maximum amount of zebra we saw. Let's see how many zebra are going to be in this herd. And then, of course, let's see how tolerant this elephant is of these zebra. I think he'll make space. Just calm down. He's wanting to chase them away. I wouldn't be surprised if he blows. So many of them coming in that they're intimidating him right out of his How do we pull? Shut, poor guy. Hey, dude. Sorry, not the biggest in the jungle anymore, right? Being chased off by a few zebra. Confidence isn't that high today. Gonna go and hide behind his stick pile. I don't think he's gonna go anywhere. I think he's just gonna wait there off screen for these zebra and eland to drink. You might find that he has a bit of a strop and runs in and chases them all away. Goodness, there's a lot of zebra here. And those eland are back. If you can count how many zebra are in this herd, I certainly am battling to get a fix on the exact numbers. But I'm judging around about 25, 26, so the largest herd of zebra that we've seen so far. Now, interestingly, in a game of top trumps, we have two animals here which would compete quite nicely with each other. Zebra can outrun eland, but eland can outjump zebra. And eland can jump from a standing start, can jump 3 meters straight up into the air, which is about 10 foot. You think about it, that's quite an incredible feat for an animal that weighs as much as what an eland does. Bull eland weighing 4 times what a zebra does. Old cow elanders. You can see her horns are splayed out to the side. There's one that's coming to drink on the left hand side. Also slightly deformed, not quite parallel. Their horn tips moving away from each other. It's atypical. Usually they're parallel. Slightly splayed, like that one at the back, you can see. Symmetrical. No more space in this water for anybody. Goodness, look at all the, what a wonderful sight. That's what we saw the other day. There seems to be an energy around zebras sometimes, and they don't tolerate one another. In particular, they bite and kick at each other quite often. Usually when anxiety or stress is high, for whatever reason, when new mares like these two here giving or older mares giving younger mares hassles. They sometimes exert their dominance over the younger mares. And then stallions also bicker and fight amongst one another, sometimes quite viciously. With the stallions having erupted canines in their jaws, so they actually have canines. Zebra females don't. And the canine is the sort of vampire tooth that we have in our mouth, the one that the movies always like to extend dramatically. And the zebra have a pair, and they can slash at each other with these teeth, sometimes inflicting wounds. But I was lucky enough to examine a couple of zebra carcasses in my life, and I can tell you that the skin on the flanks of a zebra is about as thick as the length of your thumb, for an average person. It's a very thick piece of skin with a subcutaneous fat layer underneath it, so not that easy to break through. Let me detail that out a bit. About as thick as your thumb is long. I'm finding it an increasingly interesting art, the ability to say something precisely in the least amount of simple words possible. What I'm finding is my education is sometimes sadly lacking. One observation that I have made amongst these particular zebra is that very few of them seem to have any noticeable scarring on their hindquarters. In areas where lion populations are high, often you see zebra with scratch marks down their flanks and on their bums, as lion have reached out and scored their skins in attempts to catch them. And the zebra obviously getting away, but with scars and damage to their hides as a result. And I don't think I've seen one zebra in all the herds that we've seen around Oldonia with that. And so while I don't know exactly what the lion population is like, I would imagine that similar to other places in the world, in Africa at least anyway, lion populations are on the decrease. And we're noticing that. Let me see, while we're having a look at the zebra, if I can find some census details of lion populations in Kenya.
Stay up to date with the latest happenings at WildEarth. Discover what goes on behind the scenes and get a weekly recap of the best moments on the channel.
He's got it! And he's straight up a tree!
Sign up to be an explorer and receive our newsletter written just for you and sent straight to your inbox every week. WildEarth Explorers, a club for people who are passionate about nature.
Thank you for joining us and have a fantastic morning.
Now let's see if this is a male or a female giraffe. Tough to say from this angle conclusively. So let's see if we can see any baldness on top of the horns. That's the first sign. Or if they're tufted right to the top. Noticeable protrusions on the belly, close to the back legs, for obvious reasons. And then in profile, is the head knobbly? Sort of, does it have extravagant ridges of bone on the bridge of the nose, behind the horns, and above the eyes? I want to say that this is a female because the horns look tufted. So the ossicones look tufted. I keep on calling them horns, but the actual terminology for them is an ossicone. They're not a true horn whatsoever. And I can now see the belly and the skull. And so this is a female giraffe. She's going to come in and have a drink. Very thirsty. Normally they're quite shy. She's not coming in. It's so awesome to see giraffe drink. Definitely a female. We saw her relatively pretty face. Legs played. It's uncomfortable for them in this water because it's quite rocky and they risk slipping. And a giraffe on its side is very vulnerable. Let's see what she does. Zebra have made it quite slippery there with the mud. The elephant coming back. Sun has come out. Gosh, what a beautiful scene. These cameras are just a bomber. Cloud going over the sun again. No, something's bothering this giraffe. I definitely think there's a 10 to 1 chance that this elephant is coming back. For those of you who've just joined us, there was an elephant that arrived at the pan with a fang-like tusk, and something off to the right of the screen bothered him. He rushed off to go and have a look. Zebra came in. They also took note of this thing, whatever it is, off on the right of the screen. And then all the zebra sort of pushed the elephant out of the pan, and he's disappeared off to the left somewhere. I don't think he's too far away. But whatever it is causing this giraffe some nervousness. And being so tall and sort of solid, inflexible, drinking is quite a thing for a giraffe. They're very vulnerable with their head down. But she is thirsty, and so she's going to come in again and see if she can get a bit closer to the water. These zebra have just finished the water. So she'll have to stretch far or step on the rocks, which are slippery. And she doesn't want to fall. The elephant disappeared behind that hide there. May still be in the area, but I don't know, they're temperamental things. Sometimes they just rush off. Let's see what she does. You can do it, go in for a drink. It's okay. There's a zebra around you to give you warning if they're lions or something, so just bring your head down and drink. Get it over and done with. Come on. There you go. Still unsettled. And milling about the zebra, not making it easy for her. Desperately thirsty. It is the dry season in Kenya, and so there's not that much surface water around. And so this pan is a vital source of fresh water for these animals in this area. But of course they're drinking it at a rate that is difficult for it to stay topped up. It is artificial, it is pumped, but there's not a lot of water coming into it. Just look at that. To wait for these zebra to finish and move off, mother. Another giraffe there in the background. Maybe it gives her a little bit of courage if that one's around. Bundabash, you've given us a comment I think we're all feeling. You're saying that the camera angle, the position is giving us incredible views and you're loving it, and I agree with you totally. It's such an intimate view, sort of down. Oh, see your foot slip there? Gosh, it's so precarious. Be careful. No, her footing's not secure. Come on, there you go. So she's got 3 feet solid, 1 foot not. There you go. No, come on, drink. Go, 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 go. No. Shame. Now, I've watched the giraffe all over Africa battle with rocks, and often you find lions chase giraffe into rocky areas where they trip and fall on rocks, and then they jump on them and they have a meal. A giraffe on its side is much easier to control than a standing giraffe, which has one of the most powerful kicks in the animal kingdom. You can imagine the leverage generated on those legs. Powerful enough to kill a full-grown male lion instantly. Isn't it just amazing how the view at these pans change? We had an elephant on its own, then we had an elephant and zebra, then we had zebra chasing off an elephant. Now we've had eland amongst the zebra, now we've got giraffe. Come on, there you go. She's drinking. Come on, have a mouthful. It's another female giraffe that's coming on the other side. She seems a bit bolder. Let's give him this one some courage. There you go. You can see that very awkward posture that they're in. I know I bring it up time and time again, but for all the advantage, being able to feed at the height that giraffe feed at, which is significantly higher than, kudu or impala, for instance. Even most elephant, it definitely does have some negative side effects. like a group of zebra coming in, so get your mouth full while you can. The oryx that's just walked into the bush after as well.
Are you passionate about photography and the wild wonders of Africa? Introducing Africam's incredible virtual wildlife photo competition, where you don't need a fancy camera or to travel across the continent to capture breathtaking shots. All you need is your love for wildlife and our live Waterhole cameras. Simply tune in and snap your favorite moments as they unfold in real time. Start clicking and share the magic of Africa with the world.
Such a great view now with these oryx that have slowly pickled out of the bush behind us and are now building up their numbers next to the pan. And we've seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of zebra at the pan. And there are now 3 giraffe, which have just arrived. All of them female. Remember that It's WildEarth's mission to connect or reconnect you with nature. And if you want to add to the mission, you're welcome to visit our webpage and donate some of your hard-earned money toward the cause. Keep these wonderful cameras going. It's been very rare that we've seen more than 3 giraffe drinking around this pan at the same time. But as Bundabash said a little bit earlier, the positioning of this camera is also allowing us the most unbelievable view and perspective from the vantage point that it's located at. It's really giving us this amazing view of these giraffes silhouetted against the sky. A sort of lion's view, so to say. I would imagine that we stand taller than a giraffe. Excuse me, what am I saying? We stand taller than a zebra. And obviously, I'm a 6-foot human being, and I wouldn't be able to walk underneath the belly of this giraffe, this female giraffe. Definitely a male giraffe, I would be able to walk untouched under his legs. But hers, I would just bump my forehead, I suppose. But coming back to the point about lion that we made a little bit earlier on, for those of you who are new to this morning's show, firstly, welcome. And secondly, we've been chatting about lion in this particular area, and I went off to go and see if I could find some detail on how many lion are not only at Old Donya, but in Africa in general. And I'm resourcing a company or organization called Pantera, which we've been working closely with in other places, and so I trust their their statistics, and they have said that there's about 24,000 wild lions remaining in Africa, with no formal estimates of their numbers, but it's likely that there are at least many hundreds of thousands before settlers arrive, which is quite sad if you think about it. But what is quite nice is that there are organizations like this that do contribute significantly to our understanding of lions, and obviously strategic interventions where needed can help to have a dramatic increase in populations in certain areas. They've had a significant, well, most significantly is there's been an increase of 3 times the population of lions in portions of Namibia that they've had interventions in. But if you think about that number, only 24,000 lion left in the world. It's not that many. And on a brighter note, we're watching this giraffe smack her lips again after her mouthful of water, and you can just see that massively long prehensile tongue that they've got. They use that tongue to grab leaves, and then their lips, bringing the branch with the leaves close to their mouth, where they use their lips to then strip off the leaves before swallowing them. Shaking her head. We've noticed a similar behavior with zebra and wildebeest. And then from time to time, I've witnessed it with elephant, not on the show, but we will at some point watch an elephant come in shaking their heads. They do a very similar thing, and I don't quite know why. There's a question for today for anybody out there who's wanting to suggest a possible solution. Why do animals shake their heads like that? Right, we've got some gremlins creeping in, so let's shoot off to Tower Lodge and go and see what's happening there. And just like that, we are back at Africam Tower Lodge's camera. And this is in Madikwe, South Africa. And we're busy watching a wildebeest sneak into the shot here. Many wildebeest, as it turns out. Yesterday, this was the scene for a crocodile catching some fish. And today, we are watching, starting at the back, we've got some kudu, some greater kudu. And it looks like there's some males there. In fact, they're all males. It's a bachelor herd of kudu, which is really great to see. There should be a couple of youngsters, but also some giant kudu there. Generally speaking, in a herd like that, there's one or two really lovely males from a horn length shape perspective. There's one sort of third from the back, looks like. This is the most spectacular with the deepest curl. What a great view of them, right? All these wildebeest coming in to drink now. So these are the blue wildebeest, also known as brindled canoe. And then right in the foreground, we've got a whole bunch of birds. We've got 3 black and white birds. They are the black-winged stilts, a wading bird that feeds on insects. And there's also a blacksmith lapwing just on the green mud bar. You can see that hill in the background there is probably a mile or so away, and just sort of gives me the impression of such vast wilderness. The picture is freezing from time to time. What's happened, as far as I understand, just reading the headlines, is that 2 undersea internet cables going through the Congo River Trench, just off the West African coast, was involved in a rock slide and broke. And so internet into South Africa has been severely limited by this particular occurrence. There's a bunch of cable ships in the area that are speedily trying to rectify the problem, but obviously it's going to take some time. But while they are fixing it, which is going to take a couple of weeks, we don't have that long to wait, and so why don't we go and have a look at Campus Dam? Aha. So Campus Dam is an interesting body of water. It's been protected after being described as a particularly good place for lesser flamingo to be protected, and as one of the largest colonies of lesser flamingo that we find in South Africa, actually anywhere. And interestingly, you can see that although we probably, I don't know, a couple of 100 kilometers away from Madikwe, further south, that the weather is slightly different. We don't have a breeze here at all, very, very light breeze. Allowing us such a great picture of these flamingo along with their silhouettes, or reflections, sorry, their reflections in the water. Now, these lesser flamingo, they are nomadic, so it doesn't mean that they'll stay around here often, but this is one of the water bodies in which they seem to frequent from time to time, and reliably so, and so it becomes a very important place for us to have conservation efforts. The lesser flamingos also, of the flamingos around, you get the lesser and the greater flamingo here. The lesser flamingo definitely are the most numerous, and they feed on phytoplankton, which are tiny plants that live in the water. They filter them out using their beaks, very similar to how I suppose whales use baleen plates to filter out krill. And zooplankton, these birds filter out phytoplankton, so eat plants. Very similar to that moorhen you're watching, that dark bird bob up and down in the water off on the right hand side of the screen. The IUCN do regard the lesser flamingo as near threatened, and it is something to take note of. And although there are quite a few of these birds in this particular picture, they're definitely not common.
Chatting around a fire is an ancient practice that has connected humanity for centuries, and we want to keep it alive in our modern age. As an explorer, you'll have access to intimate gatherings with our naturalists, fascinating guests, and experts where we share knowledge, insights, and stories around a crackling fire. Rediscover the power of connection. Sign up to be an explorer today and experience the magic of WildEarth's Fireside Chats.
Yvonne, you just made a comment, or you just sent a comment through. Thank you. You just said that you love in the color of the flamingos. I also love it. And particularly so with that unbelievable blue sky reflected in the water. Such a typical winter sky, absolutely still. And so the reflections of the birds are just amazing as well. Effectively doubling amount of birds that we actually see. But gosh, what a sight. You'll see that there's a couple of these moorhens now that are sort of just working around on the edges of the pan. They're eating grass, while these flamingos are eating phytoplanktons, but mainly algae and bacteria. Filter feeding them out using these plate-like projections in their beaks. Such a great view. For all you birders out there, fairly common, relatively common aquatic bird that frequents the pans and dams around South Africa. This little moorhen, and one not so common, which is the flamingo. Funnily enough, there was didn't quite like that, and so it disappeared. There was a flamingo reported in the Kruger National Park just a couple of days ago. It's not an uncommon occurrence to have flamingos just arrive. They are nomadic, these lesser flamingos, and will from time to time pop up, but they don't stick around in the Kruger National Park for long periods of time at all. They tend to frequent inland water bodies more. And you probably find it's got a lot to do with their food. There's just more of it in these pans. What a great view with the zoom on this camera. Gosh. Super privileged. There you go. That's so great. You'll notice how buoyant these birds are. And that's from air pockets in their feathers, and the fact that they have an oily secretion that a gland just by their tail exudes and which they preen themselves with. So you'll notice how birds will often sit and take great care to preen their feathers, and that's coating them all in this oil, which repels water, obviously, and therefore stops the feathers from getting waterlogged. And for the bird to retain its natural buoyancy, which you can see that it's quite an intensive buoyancy that they have. I would imagine it's like trying to duck your head down when you've got one of those silly My Little Pony tubes around your waist, or Barney the dinosaur or something. Made a little more difficult by the fact that the moorhen doesn't have webbed feet. So unlike a duck, which has webbed feet, the moorhen doesn't, and so needs to change the center of gravity quite substantially with much effort to obviously turn upside down. The way to overcome that is to get bigger. So from a stratification point of view, you can evolve longer legs like these flamingos. You can even evolve a long neck like these flamingos have, and a very specifically shaped bill. You can see that the bill of the flamingo is designed to run parallel to the floor of the water body that they're in, the lake bed, as well as to the surface of the water, where they can sift out the sort of maximum amount of algae and bacteria in strata, rather than by piercing through it, as what would happen with that black-winged stilt that you see there with the long, slender, curved beak. So beak shape or bill shape is just another one of those incredibly interesting discussion topics, because while it's quite obvious what the bill does with the flamingo, if you're explained about it and what they eat and how they feed, if you just saw that bill next to, say, the black-winged stilt's bill, or even a raptor like an eagle, not always that obvious. Jenna, all the way from the UK, you want to know if these flamingos are here all year. Jenna, it's difficult to say. They're nomadic, and so they come and go, and sometimes their numbers can literally halve over the course of an evening. They tend to move at night time, so they fly out at night time, which is quite weird if you think about it. I mean, why wouldn't you fly in the day? But I suppose they do get preyed upon. It's not uncommon for fish eagle to prey on flamingos, and fish eagle are diurnal. It's much easier for these flamingos to stay safe during the day and fly at nighttime from water body to water body, and they move sometimes considerable distances. Flamingos. It's not uncommon for a flamingo to fly a couple of 100 kilometers between lakes that they enjoy. And so you might not see these flamingos for a while, the same individual flamingo for a while there may be others arriving all the time. So they don't have a migration. They will go where the food is good and where threats to their security is less. And will come and go based on that.
Hi, my name is Claire. WildEarth has been part of this home for many years as it connects us to the bush and the culture that we love and miss so much. I became an explorer so that other people around the world can get to experience the African bush in this unique way as well. I am beyond excited that I was drawn to win the prize at Ambakala Game Reserve for 3 nights. It is truly a dream come true.
Sign up today and you could be the one experiencing it for yourself.
Welcome back. For those of you who've just joined us, good morning. Well, it is a morning here by me. It is 10:57 in the morning. I'm Stefan Winterboer. I've been your naturalist for the morning and will continue to do so for the rest of the show. We've been all over Africa this morning. We've been in Kenya, we've been in Madikwe, we're now in Kimberley in South Africa. We've been up onto the Botswana border and then down to Kimberley, which sits sort of centrally in South Africa. And we're hopping around viewing various cameras, live cameras, during the show. The show's live and interactive, and so you can ask me questions and send through comments, etc. And you can do that by registering on WildEarth's website. And what we've been looking at for the last couple of minutes is a group of lesser flamingo, which are on a protected pan in South Africa. And we've been talking about how birds preen themselves. So that behavior that you're watching some of the birds do, where they are rubbing their beak over their feathers, is called preening. And they do it. It's a very common behavior amongst all birds of all types, but particularly amongst the water birds. And it's because they need to get their feathers and keep their feathers in great condition, and also cover their feathers in an oil that they produce, which repels water and stops waterlogging. And a great example of that is in these moorhens that you're seeing. This is the little dark bird off on the right-hand side of the screen. And you'll notice that very buoyant and doesn't have any water droplets on it at all. The feathers don't look bedraggled. But as we were mentioning, we've got a bunch of cameras all over the place. And so why don't we go and have a look at one that we haven't seen yet for a while. Goodness me. So this is King's Camp. This is the waterhole just outside the camp itself. And what we have here is a fantastic herd of elephant. Wow. What an absolute surprise. We've gone from pink flamingos with an electric blue sky herd of ellies, a sort of wintertime bush dog. Is a breeding herd, as we've described. When you start seeing females with the elephant are giving each other a proper wrestle on the right hand side, two youngsters. Notice them thrusting at each other with their tusks. The male elephant comes to the guy, and then reversing at one another now. Head shake, sign of his agitation. Reversing their ears open. There's a slight picture breakup, but that's okay. We are bringing you these live pictures from some of the most remote places in Africa, and there's often a few gremlins that creep into the system. But have a look at this, intimidating each other, walking up to each other, head held high, ears wide. As we've shown before, it triples the size of the head when you open up the ears. But this elephant's making everyone nervous with his energy. You can see reversing, coming forward, reversing, coming forward. Probably find that one of the females in this herd has just come into estrus. There he goes. He's not having any of it. He's chasing off that other elephant. You can see how quickly elephant pick up speed. That was an elephant in full charge. And this fairly large herd of elephant now breaking up into individual family groups. I mean, they're easily 30 elephant here. This was a really big herd of elephant. For this area in Africa, anywhere sort of over 8 to 12 elephant is a large herd, and this was 30 plus. Those two naughty boys, they've run off now somewhere. You'll see that although there was a congregation of elephant, that they've splintered off into various groups. This one moving off on its own here, you can see about 10 elephant with these two youngsters in the distance. That's more or less a family group. And just like that, sighting's over. Let's go and see what's happening at Jamala. Goodness me. This is amazing. I love these cameras jumping around from place to place. Gosh, it's just such a cool thing. So here we've got another large herd of elephant, probably made up of 2 or 3 different families. And this is in Madekwe. So we've gone from Kimberley, central South Africa, all the way east to the Greater Kruger Park and the Timbavati to King's Camp. And now we've come back onto the South Africa-Botswana border, a couple of 100 kilometers to the west of where we were just now with the elephants at King's Camp, into Madekwe. And here we have what is possibly 2 or 3 elephant families and a troop of baboon. You just see in the background off to the left-hand side, sort of left of center. There's some baboons, Chakma baboons. There's a huge elephant coming out the back of the bush there next to the big green tree. Definitely a male, just judging from his size. You see when he gets here how much bigger he's going to be than the females around him. Doesn't look like his tusks are too big, but a big boy nonetheless. Conservation story at Madekwe is really profound, and one of the animals that have benefited most from from the conservation story has been the elephant. Lots of elephant in Madikwe. Got a reputation for being, well, actually, elephant everywhere except in the Greater Kruger got a reputation for being very dangerous. Elephant, by default, should be treated with respect. They're huge and they're temperamental and quite often have negative PTSD from human wildlife interactions. Look how much bigger he is than the females. He's not a very old elephant, that bull elephant. You can see how he sort of easily tops out the females and their calves. Almost, but not quite. When he's at his biggest, he'll be almost, but not quite double the size of a female elephant. And just bullying his way through here to come and drink probably the freshwater inlet. He's got a swagger that just is sort of undeniable. Yeah. These females won't take too much of his nonsense. He's not an old bull. If he's not careful, he'll get up the nose of one of these matriarchs, and she'll put him in his place very quickly. See if he can bully his way into this place where they've been drinking some water without getting a hiding. Like a pushy teenager. Gosh, there's a lot of elephant here. Oh, ancient cow. These ones on the left. You can see how thick she is in her body. Not very big. You know, we've seen bigger male elephant, but she's an enormous cow elephant. And shakes her head. She's not impressed with this nectar. She wants to go and drink water. She'll be one of the matriarchs. And she'll expect the younger ones to defer to her. Zebra coming into the picture on your left hand side, also drinking from the water, excluded from the deeper, tastier, or cleaner portions of the dam because there's so many elephant here. And elephant, as we know, love fresh water. Goodness me, these ellies are just streaming in. Youngster chasing away the zebra and the baboons on the other side of the pan. She's not welcome close to that big elephant. So, bit of a head shake, and that's just the bit of displacement aggression that elephant was displaying to the zebra and the baboons. It's not comfortable being able to get the drink that you want when you want it, and to have all these other animals around. What a great privilege to just watch all these animals around this pan. Gosh. See, now that they've had their drink, but before they move off, picking at the sand, probably some plants there that they enjoying, or some seeds on the ground. One or two of them having a sand bath. The elephant in the back chasing the baboons. And a decent amount of zebra, and even some impala. Elephant off on the left, busy nursing from his mom. Trunk over the head, mouth on her mammary glands, which are situated between her front legs, not her back legs, like a lioness, for instance. Baboon troop still coming down to the water to drink. So many babies. Why don't we go and have a quick look and see what's happening around in Coral? Oh my. So here we've come back to the Greater Kruger National Park, to Africam's Camd and Coral, and we're having a look at what is most likely a tawny eagle. I just got a brief glimpse of its face, but large eagle, quite variable in color. I know it's an eagle because it's got feathers all the way down its legs. There you can see dark eye, yellow beak, looks yellow. Its gape, so the end of its mouth extends, it looks like, to the back of its eye. Tough to see, let's see. So we've got a couple of options for this eagle at the moment. We've got tawny eagle, Wahlberg's eagle, and steppe eagle. There you can see the mouth goes to the back of the eye, not to the middle. So let's have a look. And tawny eagles are fairly common. Steppe eagles are migrants and are summer visitors. And we're expecting Wahlberg's, which is a far smaller eagle than tawny and steppe, but it's quite difficult to actually get a size comparison from a picture like this. So it's not easy to do. I'm going to say that it's probably tawny, but it's not 100% sure here. So for those of you quick on the draw, we've got one of our zoomies has just confirmed that it is indeed a tawny eagle. I'm just running through the, basically eliminating options. First guess was tawny, but you know, you've always got to make sure with these things, and particularly when we're dealing with people that are a lot cleverer than me.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
Eagles are very observant birds. I've noticed them do exactly what you just saw that eagle doing now. Often they turn their heads up to look at the sky, and if you took your binos and scanned the sky above this bird, I wouldn't be surprised if there was another eagle flying up there. Yeah, you can see her turn her head again, or his head again, and look. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an eagle or even a vulture flying above her, or it. I want to say it's a her, but I don't know. You can only really sex the two birds when they're sitting next to one another, with the female of the two almost always being a little bit larger than the male. See, there she looked again at the sky. Maybe her partner is flying above her. There you can see the relative size of this eagle now that we've got a nice view of the tree. It's a knobthorn tree, which is one of the larger of the more common bushveld trees that we find in this part of Africa. If you're just joining us, we're in South Africa. We're at Nkoro, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park, right on the borders of the world famous Kruger National Park, close to the east coast of Africa, in South Africa, close to the Indian Ocean. To give you a sort of geographic location, we're looking at a tawny eagle, one of the larger of the eagles, not the largest, but one of the larger eagles that we found out here. And we know that it's an eagle because of the feathered legs. It's a fairly large eagle, although difficult to say. It's more a matter of perspective, but it is a fairly large eagle. No noticeable crest of feathers on the head, that sort of browny color, and the fact that the mouth extends to behind the eye, not in the middle of the eye, and has a yellow mouth flange, so the skin that sits behind the hardened beak, and that makes this a tawny eagle, and not a steppe eagle or a Wahlberg's or a lesser spotted, which are all similarly colored and shaped. And we were just chatting about how I was lucky to witness over the period of many months, years even, a pair of tawny eagle bring a new baby into the world and bring it up and fledge it. And how eagles, it's really difficult to bring up a baby eagle. The amount of food that they require is immense, but it's also dangerous for an eagle to lay just one egg in case there's a defect with that baby or there's a problem with the egg. And so eagles tend to lay more than one egg, 2 eggs usually, and both babies will hatch usually under ideal conditions, obviously. And after a short space of time, the stronger of the chicks, which is usually the older one, kills the younger one by either pecking it to death or kicking it out of the nest. And that is called siblicide or canism. And it's a way to ensure that most of the resources that the adults are able to acquire go to bringing up the stronger of the two chicks, or the stronger of the two birds, or the stronger of the chicks, which gives it a better chance of success and reaching adulthood. We're at a fair amount of zoom, and so the wind is blowing, and so that's why we're getting some shake on the camera. Don't worry yourself too much about it. We are bringing you a zoomed-in shot of a tawny eagle from a incredibly remote area in an African wilderness, and a little bit of camera shake is okay. Now these birds scavenge a lot. Definitely most of the food that they brought the baby that I was witness to was scavenged, and was from carcasses. I would imagine anything from leopard to wild dog, hyena, and lion, and ranged in size greatly from a bushbuck forequarter, which the female flew into the nest, which could easily have weighed about a kilogram or two, all the way to a python and various mongoose, steenbuck, which is a type of dwarf antelope, a grijsbuck, which is also a type of dwarf antelope, number of different duikers, which is another dwarf antelope. And they are monogamous, so it means that there's just one male and one female in a pair, and as long as those two are alive, they will stay with each other for life. So if one of them dies for whatever reason, they will take another mate, but while both birds are alive, they're definitely monogamous and will pair up together. Oops. Forcefully expelling what was had for dinner yesterday. You may have noticed that it was fairly white, and that's a common thing amongst a lot of birds, but particularly about birds that are meat eaters. And that is because all birds have a common urogenital opening and called a cloaca, and most feces is mixed with urea, very concentrated urea, which is that white that you were seeing. Another thing which we're seeing in this picture is the flowers of this knobthorn. That's the fuzzy yellow flower that you're seeing off on the left-hand side. All the knobthorns are starting to flower or have started to flower. And my runs at the moment are just perfumed with a very subtle perfume, which I find intoxicating. I absolutely love it. And the bush is just starting to color up as we move out of our winter into our spring. All right, let's go and see what's happening down in KZN at Tembe. This is such a great reserve. This is Africam's Tembe Cam in northern KwaZulu-Natal, very close to the Indian Ocean here. And what we've got are some elephant, obviously, on the left-hand side of the screen. Very different bush here as anywhere else that we've been visiting. And a place that I've never been to in my life in Africa. Can you believe it? I've always wanted to go to Tembe. I've driven past it on a number of occasions, but never visited it. And I'm told it is a spectacular place. The two bull elephant just having a bit of a wrestle. I don't think there's any serious intent here. I think they're just two youngsters that are just boisterously playing with each other. Quite big though. You can see that their tusks are quite big. It's a wide angle now, so these elephants are bigger than they look. These depressions in the foreground are quite interesting. It's the first time I'm actually visiting this camera myself personally. And the geology that is underneath the sand or underneath the surface here is different to that where we've been. Look at them. So it gives you a nice idea of how elephants fight with one another. They joust with their tusks and push against each other with their foreheads. And the bigger elephant obviously has the advantage in strength and height, and usually in the length and strength of their tusks. And these type of wrestles, it's such intense battles of strength. You can see the tusks sliding past one another. You can imagine that they'd do some damage. But as you saw that one elephant break from the contact and turn sideways, if this was a really aggressive encounter, that is where one opponent can deliver a deathly knock to the other or death blow to the other, and that they'll strike forward into the ear and exposed neck and even the chest cavity of an opponent. And it's at that point where an elephant can sustain a deadly injury from a wrestle. These two obviously are not really interested in hurting one another, they're just arm wrestling. See an impala there in the background. Let's have another look here, you'll see what I mean. The one in the front, he doesn't like the one in the back coming close. They're big elephants, these, by the way. Full-grown males. There you go. Having another push at one another. Really cool.
Do you love relaxing at a waterhole with the sights and sounds of Africa all around you? Well, we have some really exciting news for you. From August 1st, Africam is joining forces with WildEarth to bring the majesty of Africa right into your living room with 9 incredible new Waterhole cameras from across South Africa and Kenya. Get ready to embark on a new journey. This is Live at the Waterhole.
Right, with those elephants having moved off, why don't we go and have a look at Cat Eye Pan? the Africa aptly named cat eye pan for its very low angle. Gives you a sort of perspective on what a leopard or a lion would see if it were hiding in the rocks. And what we're looking at here are a very graceful herd of impala busy slaking their thirst. Quite windy in this part of South Africa today. I'm very close to Cat Eye Pan, probably about less than 50 miles away. It's still sort of an easy day. Unique opportunity to get quite close to these very common antelope. There. Way over 250,000 of these in this area of the world, and yet they're often overlooked because they're far away. Quite often the focus is on other animals, but I absolutely love them. This is a female we're looking at without horns. All the adults are pregnant at the moment, or most of them. They're all very heavily pregnant. They'll be dropping their babies in the next 2 months or so. Sort of constant moving flow. Great food source for leopard, hyena, lion, wild dog, and when they're smaller, jackal, even python, caracal. Mixed feeders able to eat grass, as you can see the ones on the right hand side doing, but also make use of plants. And so adds to the success. That big ram you're seeing there in the top right, he is the McDaddy of this particular herd. Other males won't be tolerated at this point. They'll have to stick around on the periphery, risk getting chased around. That's a youngster. He is able to stick around because he's still too small to become a threat. How wonderfully, there's no ways that without this camera, or even if you were in a vehicle, that you'd easily be able to see what we're seeing now. They're just simply too skittish. And it's the beauty of these cameras, is that they just lend themselves to such an intimate view of the lives of these animals without human intervention. Or disturbance. I mean, intervention was the wrong word. People have put these pans in here because as large as what these wilderness areas are, they're still fenced. There you can see the impala picking at the leaves. So we've just witnessed firsthand in the last couple of minutes their mixed feeding behavior. Sometimes leaves, sometimes grass. It depends on what's going at the moment. Impala play such an important ecological role when their numbers are in equilibrium and a balance with the bush around them. Between them and elephant, they have some of the largest impacts in creating open areas in the bush. You can see in the background there that if it weren't for elephant and impala, the bush would be quite choked up. And not only is that dangerous for a lot of animals, because it favors lion and leopard as ambush specialists, but it also isn't good for plant diversity, and particularly grasses, which need sun. And if you have a closed canopy and choked bushes, it's not that great for biodiversity. So elephant will come in, clear a couple of big trees out the way, and impala will then immediately move in to come feed on the downed leaves, but then also stay there because it's open and the relative safety, and then keep it open. And other animals like zebra and wildebeest and buffalo would then move in and create this open area. Obviously, if the food web is somehow not in equilibrium and there are too many elephant or too many impala, it can tip the balance and start to impact biodiversity negatively. And so these things are monitored by some very clever scientists and people out there, true conservationists. Like we said, you're going to tip your hat to these guys who just constantly ask the questions that need to be answered, and then take bold action to maintain sustainable utilization of these areas. And just like that, everything is out of shot and gives us a nice view of the leaves blowing around. You can see that the wind is fairly strong. Nice view of the pan there with its overflow. Like I said, some of you might be thinking that it's aesthetically not pleasing or it's not natural to have these artificial water points, but I think the time has passed in a lot of these wilderness areas where we where we operate in, for humans not to play a role. And I know seasonally animals were able to move out of areas that got dry and experienced drought. They're not able to do that in the current times, and so you have to provide these artificial points at places. There's obviously a lot of discussion around how many of them you should have and how much water they should hold, and how many times a week or a month or a day do you pump it, and do you rotate the water so that different pans are active at different times so that you rest the bush. There's so many questions, and it's such a hotly contested debate. Like, I suppose everyone has their opinion and what they would like. For me, I tend to just want to leave it up to the scientists whose profession, job, passion it is to uncover these mysteries and then to suggest action plans which are for everyone's benefit. In the meantime, we just get to hang out at these pans with these wonderful cameras and enjoy the scenery. Right, let's go back to Tempe. That's so cool. Look what we got here. We've got Nyala and we've got Impala. So those are two antelope species that we're having a look at now. The Nyala are the striped antelope, with the Impala being the one on the far right with the quite impressive horn set. That's a male Impala. We didn't see one of those when we were now at Katapan. He's actually quite an impressive male. Gosh, big guy. The male Nyala that you see just next to him, the one with the dark brown shaggy coat, you can see the differentiator between the male and the female. The females are that light brown, heavily striped color. The males have those quite comical yellow socks. And then this beautiful brown coat, this chocolate brown coat with this fringe of hair all around it. And in fact, it's with the Nyala that the difference between ram and ewe and bull and cow is demarcated. It's a Nyala bull and a Nyala ewe, not a Nyala cow. So Nyala ewe and a Nyala bull, and then we've got an Impala ram. Just some trivia for you to chew on.
Are you passionate about photography and the wild wonders of Africa? Introducing Africam's incredible virtual wildlife photo competition, where you don't need a fancy camera or to travel across the continent to capture breathtaking shots. All you need is your love for wildlife and our live Waterhole cameras. Simply tune in and snap your favorite moments as they unfold in real time. Start clicking and share the magic of Africa with the world.
A conservation success story. The Nyala have always been in this area of South Africa, but they didn't occur in many other areas. I remember when I started guiding in I think it was 1998, 1999. Very soon after I started guiding, I saw 3 Nyala bulls, and then I didn't see a Nyala again in the Kruger National Park for another 4 or 5 years. And then conservation success stories started to show some of their results, and the Nyala numbers have steadily been increasing to a point now where they're fairly common to see in the park and at other places in South Africa as well. But this was the genesis point. These populations in areas like Tembe and the adjacent Hluhluwe-Mfolozi National Park. So cool to see. There are about 200, 240 elephant in this park at the moment, and it's on the borders of Mozambique. There's a corridor that elephant used to, as an ancestral migration route that they used to use, and that's how this park was established. It was only opened to the public recently, actually, in the early 1990s, because there was a civil war in Mozambique for many, many years, decades in fact, and a lot of the elephants came out of areas traumatized and were quite dangerous for people to view. We often, as we got here a couple of minutes ago, we saw two relatively large elephant bulls from a tusk point of view. There we go, you're talking about elephants. One of the 240 elephant that are in Tembe Elephant National Park, and why the park was created in the first place. But Tembe Elephant Park, the Kruger National Park, and some areas in Tanzania and Kenya are home to the last of the large big tuskers in Africa. There's not too many of them left. And Tembe is one of those places where you can see a few of the largest known elephant bulls around. And while impressive, this guy isn't one of them, but needless to say, I quite like him. As we were chatting 2 weeks ago, I enjoy elephant tusks where the tusks are symmetrical and evenly shaped. I don't know what your preferences are. You might like massive tusks, abnormally shaped. But he's got a fairly impressive tusk set, at least for my aesthetic appeal anyway. Watch what he does with the water. Looks like a... There you go. See how he gently, with the tip of his trunk, moves the plants out of the way. He's now sloshing out his mouth. Doesn't want to suck up any plants. And you'll notice he just sucks up the water at the top. Not really sucking the water further down, which is full of sediment. Jessica, you've been with us for some time this morning, and you've noticed that it's been quite an amazing elephant fest today. And you are right. You're 100% right. The amount of elephant that we've seen today is much larger than the elephant numbers we've seen. We see them all over the place. Elephant in Kenya, elephant in Tembe. Elephant to Jamala. Really nice. These are all Nyala that you're having a look at now, all female Nyala. Don't you just think their coats are the most beautiful? See a young male off on the right hand side of his mom. He will only get darker as he gets older, and his horns will get much, much longer, 3 or 4 times the length. Mainly, these Nyala are just eating trees and shrubs. They're not really eating many grasses or forbs at all. They are ruminants, very similar to the impala, kudu, giraffe, buffalo, eland, oryx. We'll battle as it dries out toward the end of the dry season. They'll get quite skinny, same as everything else, I suppose. Dry season weeding out the sick, lame, lazy. Great view of the Nyala bull and that impala ram in the background. Although in the same place, looking like they're eating the same thing, they definitely are not targeting the same. Right, why don't we go and look at another one of our cameras in another place in Africa? And just like that, we are 5,000 kilometers further north in Kenya now, and we're looking at a giraffe busy drinking. Gosh. A little bit earlier today, we watched a couple of dozen giraffe and elephant, so a couple of dozen zebra, some eland, an oryx or two, a couple of giraffe, and an elephant basically drink this pan down to nothing. And you can see that we can clearly see this giraffe's hooves. Not wet at all. Definitely showing us that it's Kenya's dry season. See if she goes down and drinks again. This is the Maasai giraffe. Such great coat patterns. Drink again. Another giraffe coming in. Quite clearly a male giraffe. Will be noticeably larger than these females. You quite clearly see the bald tops of the horns, and that penile sheath on his belly, which is quite noticeable in profile. Let's see him go down now. Much bigger, but also much stronger. Let's see him come in across these rocks. Very unstable on their feet. There you go. Gosh, what a view.
We love all the support. We read all the comments, and now we want to acknowledge our biggest fans. Do you know when Ribbon was seen last? Or the names of June's cubs? Do you remember the last time we were up close and personal with an elephant? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are in for a treat. WildEarth's Fan of the Month. We are looking for you. For more details, make sure to read our monthly mailer and keep an eye out on our social media pages. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
I don't know if you get yellow baboons out here in this part of Kenya. There you got a first-hand description of the giraffe walking with all the legs on one side of its body first and then all the legs on the other side of the body next. Very different to how most animals walk. This olive baboon that we've got sitting here, you'll notice as he walks off or it walks off, you'll notice how the legs are moving asymmetrically of one another. And that's how something like a warthog or an impala would walk. Where there's one baboon, there's always more. I got a bit of a smile on my face. I quite like baboons. They are very opportunistic and therefore quite mischievous, or we call them mischievous. They're always doing something. Let's get stopped and looking at something there. Giraffe following the female. Out of frame. And this baboon going to go and cause some nonsense somewhere. I have no doubt it's going to stick its face here. Get yourselves ready for this baboon sticking its face into the shot here. Doesn't look like this baboon is playing with, not definitely not playing my game, is on his own time frame today. So why don't we go and have a look at Jamala, where we've got some animals in front of the camera. And just like that, we are in Madikwe, in South Africa, on the Botswana border, and looking at what is a fairly large herd of elephant busy drinking and spending the afternoon around the water. Lots of elephants, probably more than one family group. But you can definitely see that I'm counting probably around 20, maybe a bit more. Lots of elephant in Madikwe. Have a look in the center of your screen. There's an elephant busy having a mud bath there. Quite often they'll stir up the mud and paint themselves with it, and you can see that he's almost knee deep in that mud. See, putting his face there, extending the bank a little bit, and creating a pool of mud, which then they paint themselves with, and it helps protect them from sun and biting insects, and sticks to parasites and pulls them off. Great view of them kicking at the sand. There you go. You can see them splashing themselves with mud. Young female making some space around the water for the older cow coming in now. This is a grandmother. Demanded it's from those younger cows and their calves. As we go, as we progress through the dry season now, from now until November, we're going to be seeing sites like this fairly frequently. It's hot out there. The elephants need to cool down. They need to hydrate. There's not a lot of food around, and so these water points become so active even throughout the night. See that elephant there in the center of the screen, still actively bathing, splashing water up behind the ears where there's a concentration of blood vessels, and along the flanks, which of course quite large expanses of skin collect a lot of sunlight. Breeze as it flows down the body of the elephant, evaporate the moisture and cool it down. We've got this youngster on the left to nurse from his mom. Look at that little baby. That baby. Yes, that elephant in his mud pool's having a proper bath. Digging at the bank to introduce more sand into the pool. You'll watch, they'll use their feet to kick at the sand and the mud. Is he going to lie down and go for a swim? Yes, he is. Oh, what a treat. Epic. Have a look at that. Just joy. Having a proper swim. Come on, girl. You're not standing in our view here. So much going on. There's a brand new baby to look at. There's an elephant swimming in the background. There's two youngsters having a bit of a tussle. Off to the right. Look at the newborns having a swim in the background. Elephants love having a swim when they can. It's almost like the water holds them up. They become buoyant. Oh, shame, this little baby's tired. He's going to sleep in the shade of his mom. Oh, cute, man. That's so epic. Having a quick snooze in mommy's shade.
Are you yearning for a private virtual WildEarth safari adventure with our naturalists and crew? We have got you covered. Sign up to be an explorer before the 15th of August and you could win a private safari experience. Make lifelong wildlife memories with either Steve
Thank you for joining us and have a fantastic morning.
or Cedric. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
just tired, not needing to drink because he'll be nursing with his mom's milk still, not really needing water. I know, come now, what are you doing? The big male now coming to push her around when her baby's just wanting a bit of a rest. What are you doing? Such a bully. Pushing his way into the. Obviously, some signal is just being communicated and in action. Those two that are having a mud bath there, they're busy having a bit of a wrestle. Obviously, one wants the other one's mud pool. He's kicking up the sand and the mud again, making it even muddier. Good to see if another elephant goes for a bath. Young female with her calf that's just busy resting in her shade. Shame, man. They got these two, they look like two young males that are busy having a mud bath. And then you got a selection of old females, like the one on the left hand side here, two on the left hand side, and then some young females and young males, like the rest of the elephants that you see. It's a young, this one in the sort of just left of center is a young female. And we're at the Jamala Dam in Madikwe in South Africa, where we're in the sort of beginnings of this end of the dry season. So from now, the effects of the lack of rain over the last couple of months is going to be felt, starting to be felt, and then also we start increasing temperatures dramatically. Right now, we're probably around about 30 degrees centigrade. Let me just see what exactly the temperature is. But it'll go up to 50 degrees here in by the end of September, October, and still no rain. The rains will only come around the end of October. You're leaving. Let me go and have a look at what the temperature is. Leave you watching these jellies having a bath. Yeah, it's 27 degrees now at 12:15 in the afternoon, which is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and it will only get hotter through the day. Not by much. We still are, in, technically, we're in winter. They're going to climb about 3 degrees or so. The hottest time of the day in the Kalahari being from about 3 in the afternoon to 4:30, usually. We'll get to about 30 degrees, which is like, I don't know, 90 degrees Fahrenheit or so. But we'll jump another 20 degrees centigrade by the time October comes about. And you'll notice still no rain. There's the amount of elephant that we've seen today. It really has been an Ellie fest, as one of our viewers kindly pointed out. Looks like we've got another youngster that's coming in for a bath. Let's see if this one in the middle sort of defends his mud pool. He's been making it for the last 20 minutes or so. They're not jealous of their mud pools, but they are jealous of their space inside the mud pools. So dusty. Looks like he's also going to kick out the youngsters now and go take over their mud puddle. We might actually see him swim, actually, depending on how much of a bath he wants. For now, he's just going to spray mud. Firstly, behind their ears, on their heads, all parts of their body. They're going to be picking up. What a treat. There's an elephant there in the background. Look at him kicking up. That is a very big bull elephant coming in from the right. Either side goes in. There'll be a couple his size, maybe one or two bigger, but there's a massive guy. And another one. Look at the little one having a bath there now in the background. The big elephant's just kicking up so much dust as he's walking through here. It's obscuring the view, but see that little one, he's now having a bath. Lying down on his side completely. Elephant's just streaming in. Let's see if this guy goes down there. There you go. See, this big guy's now made his way around the pan. The big elephant that just walked in. Look at the guy in the background having a proper slosh on his side. Getting covered with mud. What a treat. Again, such a privilege with these discreet cameras, giving us these very intimate views of these elephants' lives.
Are you WildEarth's biggest fan? Well, we have a brand new competition for you. Join our naturalists on Safari Live and listen out for weekly questions. To enter the competition, head over to our Instagram, search #WildEarthFanOfTheMonth and comment your answer under the post. The monthly winner will be determined by the total quickest and most correct answers. We announce our winner at the end of every month. Tune in to Safari Live daily.
See so many different types of elephant. Well, so many different sizes of elephant. We've got these huge bulls on the left hand side. You can just see them him bump that female out of the way. It's double her size. You can see that although these elephant are dwarfing the wildebeest, that bull elephant is dwarfing even the females. And you've got some ellies in the background there. They've created themselves a bit of a mud bath and enjoying coating themselves in some cooling protective mud, while others are busy drinking from fresher portions of the pan. Slight picture freeze here. We are bringing you a live feed from very remote places in Africa, and we've just jumped away to Old Donyo in Kenya. So a massive jump, a couple of thousand kilometers north, where we've got eland and olive baboon. When we were here just a few minutes ago, we just saw one naughty little baboon. Now we're seeing another couple. There's obviously the troop of baboons is spread out over this area. These olive baboons can actually, their numbers can be quite a few dozen baboons at the same time. Surly looking things, to be honest with you. They always look to me like bodybuilders outside a nightclub. You know, those guys that wear the big puffy jackets and are all swollen up. Having a drink from this pan, which through the course of this morning has pretty much been drunk clean or dry. Drunk clean, drunk dry. Baboon will probably make way for this giraffe. Not that the giraffe poses any problems for the baboon at all, it's just proximity. Baboon. The male giraffe. Different to the one we saw a bit earlier. Another male giraffe. Coming down to drink at the water. Such a special scene to see. Particularly in these last couple of minutes of the show today. It has been a jam-packed show, I must be honest with you. So much action all across the different feeds. It's been really great to spend time with you all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for participating and viewing. Yeah, we get to see a mix that we don't often see. Giraffe drinking with some olive baboon in the background. Giraffe lip smacking at the best tasting water ever. I take the last couple of seconds of the show just to say thank you to everybody again, all of you guys behind the scenes. Just my hats off to you, all your all the partners and everyone that provide these wonderful webcams, all the supporters, all the donators, all the viewers out there. Just great. Thank you very, very, very much. Just want to say I wish you a pleasant day further, wherever you are, and we'll catch up with you all next time.